Steve Bignell from Meat and Livestock Australia. Great to have you with us again on Flow.
Thanks for having us, Rikki.
Now, you wouldn't come at this last time I put it to you that we might have a new currency called beefcoin. The way the Icky's gone this week, maybe we do?
Yeah, it did rise this week. We have an extra 60% of cattle through it, and it did hit. It jumped over 40 cents in a week to 1,147 cents. Rikki?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal jump, but is this because it's just a bit wet and a bit hard to move the cattle around at the moment?
Well, because we've seen obviously that 60% increase in cattle throughput, it's actually not necessarily tied to that. Interestingly, we've had supply increase and price increase, so that's unusual in economics, but what it ties back to is it just shows that there's that demand, and that rain is causing restock of demand, so producers are out there looking for animals to put on the grass that they have.
Yeah, and in the varieties of cattle that are out there, there's been some positive movement on the feeder market, I gather.
Yeah, so the feeder steer also hit a new record overnight. So it's closing in on the 5.75 cents mark. It's currently at 5.74, and that's up 34 cents for the week.
And it's a bit hard to the sky seems to be the limit. It's hard to sort of put a number on where this is going. It's just this incredible demand across the board and seemingly across each of the states as well.
It is that cattle are, so what we are seeing is definitely from the Eckie, so for those young cattle, that a lot of the demand is coming from Queensland and northern New South Wales. Gunnedah had missed 2 sales from flooding. It returned to the Eckie this week. But also, coming out of Roma and Dalby is where it is. There are some cheaper cattle going in Victoria. Barnsdale prices for young cattle there are $8.75 at the moment.
Right, so maybe not so hot for the Flow family, if you like, in Riverina and Victoria and South Australia, but there might be some knock-on impacts of that sort of purchasing activity further north.
Yeah, but we are seeing some great prices in the likes of Dubbo and Wagga, Carcoar and Forbes. But it's just some of those southern Victorian markets. Yeah,
so are the sheep sort of playing second billing here on the sheep market, or have they got some positive activity of their own?
Seeing sheep, so what we're seeing with sheep is that the prices are not necessarily at the highs that they were August and September, but what we have seen, and encouragingly, it's probably more for the consumer, is that we're seeing slaughter for the last 2 weeks has been above 2020 levels, so it's returned to 4% above last year levels, so it means there'll be a lot of lamb around for Christmas. But what we have recently done, Rikki, is released our AWI MLA sheep meat and wool survey, and it's found some interesting things around producer intentions, lamb sales expected over the next 4 months, and the breakdown of merinos versus meat sheep.
Well, you better tell us where we can find that on the web before you give us some goodies of what's in that report. Where can people find that information?
It's on the MLA Prices and Markets report under the Trends and Analysis tab.
Okay, and what's some of the highlights from that report, if you don't mind sharing some?
So, no, definitely. Again, over 50% of producers nationally, it's 51%, are looking at increasing their flock size in the next 12 months. So that's a really, really positive step that we're seeing. And what we're seeing, so that's what we're seeing in intentions, but we're also expecting to see an extra 2.9 million lamb sales between November through to February. So people are getting greater marking rates, which allows them to sell more, but also to build out the flock.
So that 2.9 million, I guess for those that might not be as well versed in that, is that a fairly significantly higher figure than what usual volumes happen around the same time?
So what we're looking at this year is 13.1, and last year it was in the 10 million. So we looked at around 10 million sheep being sold. 10.2.
Yep, so it's sort of more than 20-25% increase on last year's activity, roughly.
Yes, it is. And what we're seeing is it's increasingly fat lambs and first cross, and that's also coming from what we're seeing at the breeding ewe level. So for the second successive quarter, the percentage of breeding ewes that are non-merino has increased above 25%. So merinos last quarter were making up 74% of all ewes, and now they're making up 72 this quarter. So that merino influence in the breeding flock is reducing as producers are going across to meat sheep breeds.
That is very interesting. Look, Steve, we could talk for a while about that. We better leave it there. Thanks very much for your time today from Meat and Livestock Australia.
Thanks, Rikki.